Hello, welcome to Revenant Reads. I'm Vin, and this video is an installment for Book Trek 2025. So Book Trek, it's been going on for a few years now. It is an annual event where we read Star Trek fiction. Last couple years it's gone all summer, so June, July, and August. The main mission is to read Star Trek fiction, but there are two optional away missions. So you can also read nonfiction science, or you can read books about Star Trek or having to do with Star Trek that just aren't necessarily Star Trek fiction. And that's what I have here. Now, I am cheating a little bit here. I didn't read this in June. I didn't read this for Book Trek 2025. I actually started this last year in Book Trek 2024, but it's a thicker book. I just sort of dipped in and out of it for about a year, and I finished it right at the end of May. But I'm making the video now. I'm releasing it as a Book Trek 2025 video, just kind of let you know what was in it and what I thought about it. So you can see this is the complete, uncensored, unauthorized oral history of Star Trek, the 50-year mission, the first 25 years. And it is a bunch of interviews. If I open this up here, you can see there's names, there's excerpts from what people have said, and it basically goes from, the beginnings, before Star Trek, how Roddenberry came up with the idea, up through the series, up to the 1970s, and really up through the original series movies, ending pretty much with right before Star Trek Generations comes out. And this was actually really interesting. It's, again, because of its structure, it's not something I wanted to just kind of read straight through and sit down, because you do cover the same kind of ground over and over again. You have multiple people talking about the same thing. And it doesn't make for like a real page turner, but as something that I can kind of read over a year, it actually worked out really well. And I do have the sequel to this, which is, I think it's like the next 25 years or something like that, which looks at the years of TNG, DS9, Voyager, and right up to the Abrams movies, I think is what that covered. And I have actually started that. Again, I don't plan on finishing it for Book Trek this year. I'll probably finish it, by next year's Book Trek. But this is fine to kind of dip in and out of. And there's a lot of bickering that occurs in this. You got some people with some bad blood, a lot of egos, of course. So you don't get this sense of, this kind of like cohesive teamwork push to get these things created. It's almost like, it's amazing that these things got created despite so much, so many personalities kind of getting in the way. That's not for everybody, but you kind of get a sense of that sometimes. But there were a few things that were kind of eye-opening to me. I had, when I was early on reading this, I had recently watched, I think it was called Masters of Air. So, one of my favorite series is Band of Brothers, and they had kind of two sequel series. There was The Pacific, which was good, but not quite as good as Band of Brothers. And then there was Masters of Air that looked at bomber pilots, in World War II. And again, not as good as Band of Brothers, but it was still a solid series. And I did appreciate how it let me see how a bomber plane would operate. The pilot, the navigator, the bomber, you would see all the different jobs that were occurring inside this plane. And there was a section here that, something really kind of clicked with me, because Roddenberry used to fly those things. Gene Roddenberry, who created Star Trek. And this section just kind of opened up things for me whenever I'd watched the original series. And it also gave me a clue into, I think, one of the things that I love about Star Trek when it does it right, that I think a lot of new Trek, the kind of Kurtzman era Trek, is missing. But it says, this is from Thomas Doherty. It says, at the core of the show is something profound, which is teamwork and adventure and tolerance. And that's why it's a World War II motif in the space age. It has all those World War II values that are projected into a different era. Even though Kirk and some of the others are privileged, it is really a team. And that was a great message. And that was the great message of the World War II film. that you're making a heroic contribution by doing your bit. The communications officer, the navigator, they celebrate these different roles, and Star Trek is more hierarchical than the Air Force, whereas in the Air Force it really is everybody's an equal. It kind of clicked for me, one of the things that I love, like I think that TNG does really well, is allowing the individual characters to shine, and especially with like their expertise, with their, whatever job they have. There's always these moments or many episodes that allow them to like really kind of shine, and you see episode after episode where everybody's allowed to contribute. I think that one of the things that's lost in a lot of the Kurtzman era Trek is that they don't seem to understand like hierarchy. They don't seem to understand the need for a hierarchical structure in like this space venturing universe that Star Trek exists in, where it could be hostile. They either don't really understand command structure or they don't understand the need for it. Now, I'm not a militaristic person at all, but in many of the other Star Trek iterations, like TNG or DS9 or, those sorts of things, I think that they sold the command structure really, really well. It becomes completely almost unconscious as you're watching it, but they do a really good job with it. And I just don't think the newer Trek era does that really a good job with it. But anyhow, that sort of inspiration from Roddenberry as like this bomber pilot, converting it to, the bridge of the Enterprise, I thought was actually really interesting. And just one other little tidbit that I found out towards the end that I thought was pretty cool. It says, this is from Lucas Kendall. He said, want some real trivia? 2 major film composers have made cameos in Star Trek. James Horner is a crewman holding a vacuum cleaner in Star Trek II. And in the original series, Basil Palladores is a security guard, a Klingon, and a Nazi soldier. Basil was a film student at USC, and he and his friends used to be Hollywood extras. So Basil Palladores, he also did one of my favorite soundtracks ever, which is Conan the Barbarian, the movie. I just love that soundtrack so much. So it's kind of great to see that he was an extra, basically, in Star Trek. So yeah, this was really interesting. Like I said, I don't think it's the kind of thing that I would enjoy reading cover to cover at once. But diving in and out of it, over a period of time, it actually worked really well for that. So if that's something that, you sound interested in, I would definitely check it out. So yeah, this is my first video for Book Trek 2025. Now, even though Book Trek 2025 has officially started in June, for me, it hasn't really started. Star Trek reading for me has always been like a summer activity. I'm a teacher, and Star Trek books are basically my version of beach reads. And school isn't out for me yet. I still got a little ways to go before my summer break starts. And then once it does, I'll start picking up Star Trek. So yeah, I'm not quite in Book Trek mode yet, but I just wanted to put this out here, just kind of contribute to the conversation. And if anybody else has read this, I'd love to hear what you thought about it. So thank you, BookTube.